Hi everyone, I hope you're well and thank you for watching. Today I just want to touch on briefly some of the key tax issues for American and Australian expats to consider in moving between the two countries. We'll do this by way of 3 short videos. The first video will look at issues for US expats moving down under. The second video for Aussies moving to America. And thirdly, issues in running a business or a company from Australia or from America. So today we'll look at some of the issues for an American expat moving to Australia or for an Australian citizen returning home from the US. The first really important point to remember for US citizens and US green card holders is that even after you move to Australia, you still have an ongoing requirement to file in America to report your income in Australia and America. That's really important. Also to bear in mind, you need to report your Aussie bank accounts and Aussie Super on your FBAR form in America. So just bear in mind that obligation continues after you move to Australia. Luckily, there is a treaty between the US and Australia to make sure there's no double taxation. There'll be a tax credit claimed in either Australia or America to alleviate double tax. And this is where the timing of the returns, the filings in Australia and America is important. And we're happy to help with that to make sure it's managed effectively. So if we look at some of the common issues we see with our clients would be a US expat coming down to Australia for employment. They might have some US shares, US property, for example, and a US retirement plan, a 401k or IRA. So some things to think about at a high level would be your employment income. So if you're normally working from Australia, Australia would tax the income first with a tax credit applied in the US against that income to alleviate double tax. And that would hold true if you're employed by an Australian company directly or a US company if you're working remotely from Australia or contracting via a US LLC. If you are working for an American company, just bear in mind you can either think about switching off the withholding or potentially working out how to manage that W-2 withholding in terms of claiming a credit in America to offset that income, or potentially chatting with your employer to see what options you have. A really common question for our American clients is the treatment of US retirement plans in Australia. So unfortunately, the plans aren't recognised as super in Australia. The starting point would be that Australia would tax them as income with a deduction for contributions that have been made to those plans, so the 401ks or the IRAs. Now, potentially where American withholding applies on the payment, if you are an Australian resident and cease your American residency, so you're not a US citizen or green card holder, a tax treaty position can be made to claim back that American withholding. We can certainly help work through that with you. But otherwise, it's really important to think about how to manage that drawdown from those plans in America. Some other pitfalls we see for our US clients in Australia would be Australian Super. Contributing to Australian Super can be taxable and reportable in America. So certainly make sure you get advice before you make contributions to your Australian Super in Australia. Secondly, what's known as passive foreign investment companies. So if you're investing in Australian mutual funds or Australian ETFs, so your Vanguards, for example, they can be reportable and taxable in the United States still. So that's really important to think through. Other issues would be potentially buying property in Australia. There can be some mismatches between the American and Australian system, whereby, for example, the Australian main residence exemption may exempt your main residence in Australia in full from Australian tax. However, there's still American tax payable on that top up over above the US exemption of $500,000 if you're filing jointly in the US. And that's where consideration can be given to holding assets in a non-US citizen's name, for example. The other issue we see is green card holders. It's quite common for the partner to come to Australia with a green card. Just bear in mind that having that green card still ties you into the American tax net while you have that green card. If you give that green card up after 8 years, that there can be an American exit tax if you're over the relevant thresholds. So that's why it's really important to get proper advice, plan in advance, and we're obviously very happy to help. So I hope that was useful Please do stay tuned for the next video. If you've got any questions, please give me a call or email me. Have a great day.